James Grande, welcome into the Better Baseball MLB DFS live stream here, recording on all of our Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm streams here. James, my guy, how we doing?
Happy Thursday, John. I don't think anything is important happening today. I think it's just a normal Thursday, right? Like nothing else occurring.
Yeah, nothing big, nothing going on. You know, it's not like the NFL draft is just a few hours away. It's not like Lamar Jackson just re-signed with the Baltimore Ravens. It's not like there's been a lot of news or anything like that of note going on out there today as we prep pretty heavily today. Just an absolute monster day here at Fantasyland and on the Better Sports Network family. We got the Better Cast NFL live draft show bringing you today 5 hours. Starting at 7 o'clock, running all the way to midnight, covering every pick, pre-show, after show, you name it. We're covering it here on the channel, and you got to get in there. You got to download the Better Sports Network app. It's free to do. You can take part in the Better Cast. You got an opportunity to win a one-of-one Anthony Richardson augmented reality card, which is pretty cool. You can go check that out on Twitter right now. Go follow at Coupe Fiasco, Andrew Cooper, if you haven't already. He's tweeting out exactly what the augmented reality card looks like there. And yeah, the NFL is certainly dominating the space. But with that being said, we do have an MLB slate to talk about here. We had a split slate here for the MLB today, some afternoon games. DraftKings gave us a 5-game main slate to talk about as well, which locks at 6:40 p.m. Eastern here. And for it being 5 games, we got some decent pitching on here. We got Garrett Cole, Shane McClanahan, and Dylan Cease at the top. We got Kyle Gibson and Tyler Mahle in some pretty decent matchups. Last week, we saw Joey Lucchesi come up, dominate. He's got a matchup against the Washington Nationals tonight. So, you know, we've seen big slates with crap pitching. Now we have a short slate with some pretty decent pitching matchups. James, before we dump, obviously going in position by position, let's go take a look at Vegas and let's see if we got any indicators of where we may be heading today.
But before we get there, John, I just want to backtrack. I cannot believe you just asked more people to follow Coop. Like, Coop needs any more gosh dang followers. You know, how about we get some I'm just kidding. I know.
Listen, I'll take all the followers, that we can get there as well. If that's the way if people are willing.
If they want to. Agreed. I agree. I'm just kidding. I hope all of you follow Coop and all his great content for a chance to win the Anthony Richardson card. But yeah, over in Vegas, there are some big favorites today. And I think you and I haven't been able to say that much of late. Joey Lucchesi, as properly pronounced on last week's podcast. Howard Bender tore me up for it. Minus 240 against the Washington Nationals at home tonight, coming off an amazing first start of the year for him. Minus 210 for Tyler Mahle and the Minnesota Twins up against the Kansas City Royals. Garrett Cole is a minus 165 favorite on the road. Shane McClanahan is a minus 150 favorite on the road against the White Sox there, who I don't know if you heard the most epic rant of the day today, but the Chicago White Sox fan that called into their local radio station, John, is a must 7-minute listen on the state of affairs in Chicago at this current moment. They just let this caller go for 7 minutes, and it was glorious. But they are minus 150 or plus 130 at home, and then Kyle Gibson and the Baltimore Orioles minus 150 on the road. So every game tonight significantly different than what we've seen. In terms of game totals, not much different though, John. Like, it's something that you and I have touched on a lot lately. There's not a lot of big game environments in terms of over-unders. The Mets and the Nationals are 8.5 in some sports books. Like FanDuel has been, open to 8.5. It's still 8.5. It's been bet down on DraftKings to 8. And that is the slate high. KC, Minnesota, 8. There's a potential rain in that game. 7.5 in Tampa Bay, Chicago. Well, Dylan Cease for Shane McClanahan in that game. As you mentioned, like 2 elite pitchers or potentially elite pitchers. Garrett Cole and Andrew Heaney Garrett Cole on one side, and his offense can't score on the other side of the ball. So, like, not a lot to love offensively, a lot to like in terms of the favorites on the money line and in terms of Vegas, if you want to lean there, but no Coors walking through that
Right.
door, no Great American walking through that door, nothing particularly that stands out in Vegas. I do think there are some good spots that we're going to get into soon, but nothing that really stands out in Vegas, at least in the run.
Yeah, for the weather you mentioned there, Minnesota, Kansas City. Looking at our friend there, Kevin Roth, does a lot of great work over at Roto Grinders. Really, the DFS weatherman. No shame to admit it. There doesn't think we should be too worried about the rain in Minnesota. Maybe some scattered showers there, but nothing too concerning in terms of impact in this game here. Not again, Tyler Mahle, good matchup against Kansas City in theory. Look, Kansas City, like some days breaks out, some days they don't. There's certainly a team you can target, but it feels like we've had some inconsistent performances, or at the very least, Nathan Eovaldi has given us some inconsistent performances whenever we've liked to target him against the Kansas City Royals. That said, all right, let's get into it here, and we'll start knocking down some of these positions, starting off at the starting pitcher position here. Garrett Cole, Shane McClanahan, up over 10K. We just saw this matchup for McClanahan. It was part of their doubleheader, and he pitched 6 innings, allowed 2 earned runs, both coming off solo home runs, 10 strikeouts in that game for McClanahan here. And you look at the White Sox, they have a near 25% strikeout rate against lefties. You've been talking about this lineup for a while now. The one thing that they do have is guys that hit lefties better than righties. But a strikeout pitcher like McClanahan doesn't seem like he should have too much trouble right now.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, they have guys that hit lefties better. The numbers don't exactly suggest that, though. 22nd in OPS, 294 team WOBA against lefties. Like, things are just not good for the White Sox, as indicated by the greatest White Sox fan of all time today on their radio station. You did, like, they're 15th in ISO, so some power upside that they're showing, but there's nothing that really makes me excited or scared about getting to McClanahan. Like, if you don't have the 11-2 to get to Garrett Cole, using Shane McClanahan is perfectly fine as your SP1, and I think there is a path to using them both on today's slate, and I think there's also some very quality starters below them, so that could be a contrarian approach going Cole McClanahan. But McClanahan is a perfect 1B. If you want to even list him as 1A here, because the Texas matchup is much harder for Garrett Cole, that's fine too.
Yep, 100%. I think I agree with you there. If you want to go Cease, I mean, obviously it's a tougher spot. We just, again, saw him in this matchup, only 4 innings in that game, 3 earned runs, 101 pitches. Tampa Bay, man, they're just they make contact. They even have guys hitting for some power this year. And Cease, last year he was that elite strikeout guy. He's still hanging around a strikeout per inning, but last couple of matches for him, 6, 5, and 5. When you're spending this kind of money on him, you need those 10, 9 strikeout performances to really kind of lay off the low innings here. So probably a contrarian option for you if you want to go Dylan Cease. I think as we work our way down, you've been the one pointing out the fact that the Yankees lineup kind of sucks after you get past like Aaron Judge, who hit second for them, right? You get first a couple guys in that lineup, and generally you don't have too much trouble here. Do you trust Andrew Heaney in Texas tonight against the New York Yankees?
This one is interesting because the Yankees are going to be very popular tonight. There's about 4 teams that are getting all the ownership tonight, and the Yankees are one of them. And it's largely because Garrett Cole is like bringing in a lot of the ownership, and a lot of it's Aaron Judge. But then like Volpe's cheap, Peraza's cheap, multi-position eligible. But then you just look at the numbers. They are so bad against left-handed pitching. I mean, 109 ISO, John, is the Yankees, okay? Like the team that doesn't have a payroll, even though they lead you to believe so. 29th in isolated power. They have a 644 team OPS against left-handed pitching. That is 28th in baseball. And then they strike out 23% of the time. The only saving grace that could maybe get Andrew Heaney out of this game earlier, more so like those 5-inning starts he had against KC Houston, because pitch counts were obviously an issue, is that they walk more than anybody else. They have an insane 15% walk rate against left-handed pitching, almost 16% if you want, 4 percentage points higher than any other team in the league. And Heaney is somebody who relies on the strikeout and walks people because he is constantly throwing junk out of the zone, right?
Mm.
He's constantly getting people to chase. That is the only way that you could you could really sell me on the Yankees. I could see scenarios where Aaron Judge hits 2 home runs tonight because Andrew Heaney is a fly ball first pitcher. He allows a lot of power. He's never been afraid to allow home runs. And Aaron Judge is, we don't need to, go into his resume as a home run hitter. But
this is a ballpark that's just kind of middling for hitters too. If you go to Baseball Savant, their StatCast in terms of like their park factor ranking, they're right there. They're 20th in park factor ranking. So it's not really a ballpark anymore in Texas. That used to be a pretty big offensive. They kind of changed the dimensions. It became a little bit more of a pitcher's park here. So Heaney gets away with, giving up some fly balls when he's pitching at home here, right. A little less damage. And if you look at his numbers, right, the 4.34 ERA, really just an outlier game, right? Baltimore on opening night just hammered him up. Ever since then, 2 total earned runs allowed in 17 innings. So, a pretty decent run for Heaney. Before we get to the next pitcher, we are live, so I want to just at least give some breaking news. We got the contract details for Lamar Jackson. They're $260 million guaranteed, or $260 million over the 5 years, $180 million, looking like $185 guaranteed. So we opened the show talking about Lamar Jackson getting the deal. 5 years, $260, $185 guaranteed there for Lamar Jackson. I'm sure we'll talk more about that on tonight's NFL Draft Special show that we got going on the Better Sports Network. So stay tuned for more of that. James, breaking that down to this mid-tier pitching section. Kyle Gibson here on the road against Detroit. Gibson himself, 3 of the last 4 starts for him. Quality start, 6 1/3 against Detroit, 6 1/3 against Oakland, 7 innings against Texas. Had a little trouble on the road against the White Sox, but 11 Ks against Detroit in his last outing. We don't generally think of Kyle Gibson as a strikeout pitcher. I don't know if that's necessarily repeatable here, but 3 of his last 4 starts, he's given up 2 or less runs. Pitching into the 7th inning in 3 of those 4. I kind of like Gibson a lot at this price point.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset you skipped over Tyler Mahle.
Well, I was going to circle back, but to me, Gibson's kind of got the better record here.
Yes, 4-0 is definitely pretty good. He's obviously coming off an elite start against. And I have no arguments against using Kyle Gibson. Obviously, he is not an 11 strikeout pitcher. That is just kind of more of an anomaly. But he does get the same spot again. A team who has a 25% K rate, a team who is 29th in OPS and WOBA and 26th in ISO, and a team that scratched Javi Baez not too long ago. So Javi Baez not even in the lineup anymore. That is not that Javi Baez has been much, but he's been serviceable, and
he's been actually really good lately. Last 10 games, 360 average. So he's on working his way up. There was actually someone tweeted lately. He did it's funny how this always happens, right? A little batting stance adjustment, and all of a sudden, like boom, he starts to get his hands set quicker. He has a better plane on his swing, and he's making better contact. So Baez a little stance adjustment, and now he's hitting 360 over his last 10. To your point, though, not in the lineup tonight. So even easier, taking one of the better hitters out of an already bad lineup out of that lineup.
Right. So I love Kyle Gibson 74. The field loves Kyle Gibson 74. I guess I'm a little surprised to see his rostership lower, almost cut in half from Mahle, which might actually put me on to Kyle Gibson a little more. I just think there's more consistent strikeout equity with Tyler Mahle.
100%.
I know he's coming off just the 4 last game, but I mean, 5+ in his first 3 starts. He had 6 or more in his first 2 starts. And now KC, I mean, just percentage points ahead of Detroit in terms of strikeouts, but like they've actually been worse than Detroit offensively against right-handed pitching. So, Mahle 30-something% compared to Kyle Gibson is kind of interesting to see, and maybe I do lean Gibson's way a little bit.
Yeah, my issue with the 2 lineups is if you just go player for player, and I say this every slate, right? There's more guys that can hurt you in Kansas City's lineup than there is in Detroit's lineup. So, and it doesn't go deep into Kansas City's lineup. It basically stops after like Melendez or Pasquantino, right? But I don't even think you get to the one hitter in Detroit where you're like, oh, I'm worried about this guy, So, between Bobby Witt, Salvi Perez, Melendez, and Pasquantino, that top of the lineup can at least do a little something against you. I don't often find Detroit, even though they got after Eric Lauer the other day, unfortunately, I don't find Detroit to be a team I'm all too worried about there, especially when Javi Baez is out of the lineup. So that's kind of where I was.
You got to circle back there. Why did you have to bring back those
I know, Lauer was such a sad day. But we made up for it on the late slate. We both tilted, played the late slate. We got our money back, so it was all fine there. Shout out to Corbin Carroll and who was the other guy that we had in the lineup that night? I think I played Yaz. Yaz had the homer. It's a big night for him.
Yep, Yaz hit the home run. Yep, Yaz hit the home run.
So yeah, listen, I you know what? If you're telling me that Gibson is half the rostership there, easy play.
Yes.
Easy play tonight for me when it comes to Kyle Gibson there over Tyler Mahle. Speaking with probably far too confidence about Kyle Gibson than anybody ever has, but he's been a serviceable pitcher. Value tier here. Lucchesi, as we mentioned, comes off out of nowhere in just like the best left-handed pitching spot there is in the game right now against the Giants. 7 innings, 4 hits allowed, shutout baseball, 9 strikeouts. Now he goes up, faces the Washington Nationals here, another team that doesn't have much in that lineup. But once again, James, same thing happened last year. They don't strike out. 15% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching.
No, they
don't. You can target them all you want. 336 WOBA this year against left-handed pitching.
They've been
no
good.
ISO, 089. I think a toddler could have a better ISO than I think. Orion could go out there and probably have a higher ISO than the Nationals do. But it's 299 average, 365 on base. They don't strike out and they just put balls in play against left-handed pitching. So I'm not chasing the Lucchesi play. I maybe be more likely to go against Lucchesi tonight with Washington. Put some Candelario. My boy in the lineup there, Lane Thomas in the lineup here tonight, right? Like I'm more likely to go in that direction than play Joey Lucchesi here.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Like they are that ISO, the toddler, the equivalent to a toddler ISO, is dead last in baseball, but they're 8th in WOBA and 11th in OPS. Like they are top third of the league in both of those categories against
great
lefties.
Slap hitters, every single one of them,
great softball players if after their future is done, like they are going
they're
to
10th in win runs created, right? Like, they're just
that's great. And it's not like going into the start, the only reason Lucchesi was on my radar personally was because the Giants strikeout rate. Like the Giants just struck out more than anyone else against lefties, but they also didn't hit lefties. Now you're getting a popular Lucchesi. He is the 4th highest projected owned pitcher. The 2 guys at the top, Cole McClanahan, I think predictably are there. Tyler Mahle. Lucchesi is 4th. Facing a team who doesn't strike out, he has a history of not being good. Like a long history of not being good. And now face a team top 10 or top 11 in OPS and WOBA against lefties. Again, I am not going to sit here and say, go stack those Nationals. But I wouldn't mind having a couple pieces against Lucchesi because the statistics are much greater against him than they are of his 1 start sample in 2023. Right. So we talked about it yesterday with the Nationals. Like, they are annoying. And they were annoying yesterday. They only scored 4 runs, but they've now beat the Mets in back-to-back games. Like, they are kind of a fun little team.
I mean, listen,
to
the Pirates
root
won
for.
again, so who knows, right? Like, these teams are starting to, find what works for them, maybe a little bit, kind of, sort of. They beat up the Pirates beat up on Urias. The A's have scored 5 runs off Shohei Ohtani today, so who knows?
Brent Rooker, baby, Brent Rooker,
lately years,
bomb
coming
again.
through, man.
Yep.
So yeah. Anyways, back to the main slate. Talk to me about anything on Greinke, Williams, or Wentz. Or are those just the 3 we're axing tonight?
I mean, anything. Target against them. don't actually actively use any of these guys. I will say, for what it's worth, Trevor Williams has been very serviceable. And that is the furthest I am willing to mention about any of these guys. Lefties this year are killing Zach Greinke. So, of course, I'm going to lose money on the Twins tonight, John. Of course, because that's how MLB DFS goes for me. I love playing the Twins, and they let me down 100%
like last
of the time.
night when every single one of them went 0 for 4. It's great.
It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again tonight. Trevor Williams has been good. Mets, one of those 4 teams garnering a ton of rostership coming their way. Trevor Williams, ex-Met, has been really good. We'll see how that fares. Joey Wentz is bad. I have nothing good to say about him. He's just bad.
Trevor Williams this year with the 5.48 K per 9, the worst of his career. Trevor Williams was a frustrating guy because for all the same reasons where like I would always want to stack against him in DFS. He just sort of like manages to sort of skate by and be like an average pitcher. His xFIP's always around 4, which isn't something like you can just clearly target. There are going to be days where he goes and gives you 5 innings, earned run allowed, and you're like, what the heck? This is a guy we're supposed to be able to dominate, and he just has like his career left on base percentage is 73%, which is like a really good number. He just skates by a guy that just career ERA 4.2, right? He just skates by on being average, and some days that goes for you, some days that goes against you. I kind of agree with you. Looking at what we got for Trevor Williams here, is in Colorado, 5 1/3, 2 earned. Cleveland, 5 innings, a run allowed. Minnesota, 6 innings, 2 earned. They don't get good contact off of this guy for whatever reason. So, absolutely.
So, but doesn't that worry you about how popular the Mets are going to be? Like when obviously the Mets have a lot of talent. Mm-hmm. They have the likely home run king this year. That remains to be seen. Lindor, Nimmo's incredible. Like they have all these talented players, but they are super highly projected against a guy who's just been hard to stack against. Look, lefties have been really good against Trevor Williams for a long time. They profile better against righties, but kind of worries me about the Mets being very popular tonight.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Also not a ton of hard hit. I'm just kind of looking through some of the career numbers for for Williams. There aren't a lot of hard hit balls against him. I mean, not a ton of home runs allowed really. I mean, he just skirts the league average numbers as over and over again there. So all right, let's move on over to the catcher position again on a smaller slate. Only so many catchers we're going to be looking at here. Talk to me about it. Rutschman's your top price catcher. He's $5,100 against Wentz. Melendez here. No Salvi, it looks like, in that lineup for the Royals here tonight. So Melendez at $4,400 hitting third against Male. Jonah Heim gets cold. Grandal probably not going to go there. What are we feeling? Are we feeling Rutschman, Melendez, or are you waiting to see which Yankee catcher gets in the line? Probably Higashioka, and just take a shot on him against Heaney.
We just got the lineup. Trevino is playing tonight. So
did you play Trevino then? Just punt catcher here tonight?
Possibly, yeah. So I think Rutschman is the top dog. He's hit lefties extremely well this year, 333 average. He's already hit 4 home runs against lefties too. That's a lot. Baltimore, I'll just say it right now, they're my favorite stack of the night overall. Austin Hayes not in the lineup. Unfortunately, he's been injured the last couple days. But Baltimore is my favorite stack tonight. Joey Wentz is really, really bad. Righties, 350 on base, 491 slug, 366 WOBA, 2 home runs per 9 innings, and a 56% fly ball rate. They're not in Baltimore. So, like, just being in Detroit is automatically a park upgrade for every Baltimore player tonight. I think Rutschman is worth spending up on tonight. Now, it just, can you get there? Because a lot of lineups look like they're going the Cole McClanahan route. So, can you get to Rutschman if you go Cole McClanahan? That's the question. Melendez is fine. Tyler Molly's actually struggled a lot with right-handed batters as I was previewing the slate. Righties this year, hitting 321 with a 547 slug and a 395 WOBA. Like, that's pretty bad. The only saving grace for Molly there is the 50% ground ball rate. So I like righties against him a little bit more. So I don't think I'm getting to Melendez. Obviously, no Salvi just hurts that lineup in general. I mean, I saw you like live talk through the Royals lineup. Like, you're like, yeah, well, the depth, and then you saw Salvi was in the lineup. You're like, oh god.
Now it's now there's 3 guys in that lineup I'd be willing to use.
Now there's So I don't think I'm getting there. I would say, look, here's where I'm going. Rutschman at the top. I think Christian Vasquez, if you're playing Twins, is fine. He has been pretty bad. But we know he has big games. Kybert hitting 4th tonight. Continues hitting. Another hit last night. That's hits in 5 straight games. 7 fantasy points again. If you give me 7 fantasy points at this catcher position at $2,800, count me in, right? We've already profiled Lucchesi. He's not that guy, pal, from last start, right? He's not that guy. So I think Kybert's a pretty good spot. I do like Trevino, 25. And then it's like, is Francisco Alvarez ever going to hit? Because if he's going to hit, I mean, he's going to hit, right? He's going to hit. He's $2,600, Trevor Williams. So it's probably a punt situation for me. Kybert is probably my favorite option at catcher, if not paying up for Rutschman.
Okay, cool. Let's go on over to the first base position here again. There's definitely some matchups we like here. I gravitate towards Mountcastle whenever a lefty's on the mound and they're not in Baltimore. I know his numbers on the year don't look great, and a lot of that production, I think, a 9 RBI game, so definitely a lot going there. And he's actually, even to my surprise, he's hit better at home this year than on the road. But I'll take him against Joey Wentz. I'll give him an opportunity there at $4,600. I also don't mind Zach Greinke. Not Greinke. Joey Gallo going up against Zach Greinke here. He is, again, just kind of an all-or-nothing power hitter at this point, but he does have 7 home runs in his 15 games played this year. So Greinke, as we know, inefficient right now. Could be a guy that at some point finds his way on a minor league assignment DFA. So maybe Gallo gets to him in the mid-tier as well.
Yeah, I think those 2 guys you mentioned are the guys for me as well. I'm perfectly fine getting to Alonso if you're playing a Mets stack. So, just because John didn't mention him doesn't mean he's not in play, because he is. He has 10 home runs. He could add 2 more tonight. But I do think Mountcastle, I actually gave Mountcastle a little too much, or Adley Rutschman too many flowers. I gave him Ryan Mountcastle's numbers, John. I was citing Ryan Mountcastle's numbers against lefties. He crushes lefties. Rutschman still has a 373 WOBA against lefties, but Mountcastle has a 435 mark against left-handed pitching. So clear cut as day for me. It's Mountcastle at the top. And I think you're right on Joey Gallo. I think, the multi-position eligibility is fantastic for him too. He didn't have it, he had it, then he didn't have it. Now he has it again. The power has really been there for
5
Joey Gallo.
5 home runs allowed the last 3 games by Greinke. So
yeah, and dude, it's lefties that are getting to him. 2.25 home runs per 9 innings against lefties this year. That's terrible. And that's been reverse as to what it's been the last few years. 563 slug for left-handed bats this year. I think Joey Gallo's going deep tonight. He's going to continue the streak. There is slight weather there, but Joey Gallo also has hit a home run in 40-degree weather in 2 of the last 3 nights. Right. So I don't think any ballpark can really hold Gallo if he makes contact. So yeah, I think those 2 guys in Mountcastle and Gallo are the 2 plays here with obvious, gravitation toward Alonso if you're playing a Mets.
Yep, I agree with you. I think those guys certainly, again, make sense in the mid-tier. If you wanted to go a little bit down, again, we talk about Washington, not a lot of power, but, Munisi's sitting there in the middle of the lineup at $3,400. Could be something if you wanted to be different. Maybe you don't think tonight's McClanahan's night. Andrew Vaughn's $2,800 hitting second. Vogelbach at $2,300 hitting 6th for the Mets tonight against Williams. And then Michael Chavis here, Stone Cold Min. We talk about a guy that the reason he's in baseball still is because he hits left-handed pitching. Could certainly find his way in a lineup here tonight.
We actually used him a lot last year. When we started our podcast, our video pod, I think it was right around that time. We started our video podcast. We gave Michael Chavis probably as much screen time as any other player because he was 2K in the Pirates lineup against lefties every single time they played. And we were like, hey, he's hitting like 320 against lefties. Why don't we just
308 against lefties this year? It's the only thing that he does.
Yeah, and like he has not had a lot of success. He has not had a lot of at-bats.
Once being a top 100 prospect in baseball, could not strike out less than 30% at the major league level. So did not work for
him. And he has not like flashed a lot this year. You mentioned he has hit 300. It is an incredibly small sample, but that sample does bleed into last year where he was also awesome against lefties. I am okay with it. I don't think it's a good spot to use at first. I think it's a better spot to use at second. Just like because I like Mountcastle and Gallo so much, and like third, I like Alonso, so I would not use him in my lineups like over any of those guys. But we're gonna get to second in a second, and it's like, all right, there's like a couple guys, and then it just falls off a cliff. Like it's kind of been the last few nights.
I agree with you.
For us. So
let's go to second base then. We mentioned obviously that Chavis is a Stone Cold Man price. Marcus Semien, home run the other day against Garrett Cole. He's $6,000 though. I don't know.
Your least favorite player in baseball is Marcus.
Definitely when he's 6K, he's like my least favorite player. Brandon Lau's hitting cleanup. He's 55. Gleiber versus the lefty at 46. Your top 3 guys there. Jorge Polanco's been pretty decent. Since coming back into that lineup, he's $4,200. Not playing Taylor Walls at $4,100. I don't care how good of a start he's been off to. Just not a spot for me.
Yeah, so like you're right, not using Semien 6K. Good luck if you want to get there.
Polanco has to be a track here, right?
It's Polanco. The answer is Polanco. He hasn't even been awesome to start the year. Hits in all 5 of his games, 3 straight multi-hit games, 6 RBIs, hit in the middle of the lineup. We haven't even gotten the speed yet. 5 extra base hits in 5 games too. Like this guy has been a freaking animal. Great matchup. We just profiled the splits against left-handed bats for Greinke too. It's Polanco and then it's the field. And that's kind of why like I was mentioning the thing about Chavis where I'd rather use him at second because, Polanco is the clear-cut option here. But after him, yes, Ramon Urias is here, and Ramon Urias is probably the other guy you'd want to use.
I think, only because he's hitting 5th, but I always confuse him with Luis Urias. Ramon Urias does not hit left-handed pitching at all. He last year struggling this year against lefties as well.
Right, just hitting 5th. With coming off a 4 for 4 yesterday, hit like 7 hits in his last 3 games, and he's multi-position eligible. Like there's a lot going for him.
Yep.
Jeff McNeil profiles well.
If you want 2 singles tonight, you play Jeff McNeil, right? Like
right, and parlay that into maybe a double. Like if Jeff McNeil's feeling spicy, it's. I mean, look, John, it's NFL draft night. Maybe McNeil's.
Who's a perfect Washington National? Jeff McNeil. Yeah.
Jeff McNeil. Yes, he could be a Washington. He has Washington National written all over him when he's 35. Yeah, I mean, maybe we get a double out of him, but like Joey Gallo is like our second favorite first baseman. I'm like, yeah, that dude's gonna hit a home run. Mountcastle's gonna hit a home run. Your second favorite second baseman is hitting 2 singles tonight, like, and that's where I think Chavis comes in here at second. He's stone cold min, multi-position eligible at a very bad position. So there's like 4 guys I would play.
I can't believe the Kansas City Royals are batting Michael Massey 6 today. It's just
I mean Nicky Matone is hitting 4th for the Detroit Tigers. That's how bad things. And that's like to your.
Hey, he homered off of like Scherzer, like or Gossman, whoever it was. Like,
yeah, he hit like what? He had like 2 home runs. Like I think he had a double. He had
back-to-back. No, he had back-to-back games.
Back-to-back games.
The 11th and the 12th. One of them was definitely off Gossman. Okay. It was probably Manoah Gossman. Probably hit him off both of them.
Yeah, it probably was. It probably was Manoah Gossman. I remember.
Why pay for Jeff McNeil when you could just play Adam Frazier at $2,400? Basically the same guy. Against Adam Frazier against left-handed pitching. Chavis. So are we? We're either playing Polanco or Chavis at second.
Dude, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's Polanco up top, or you're pretty much punting Chavis 2K. And you know what the route is? You're using Chavis in your Cole McClanahan lineups.
Yeah, I agree. 2K, hard to argue. Hard to fight you with it.
Okay, hard to
argue. All right, third base. Taylor Walls is your top price third baseman. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know if you look. This is the worst position of all time. Not even just tonight. This is for including.
We're just playing Beatty then here, right? That's just what we're doing.
It's Candelario, or Urias. I think Urias is going to be popular. I think Candelario is going to garner some ownership. Look, Urias is multi-position eligible at the worst position of all time. I think. On slate sizes of 5 games or more, this is the worst position of all time. Like, can you remember a worse slate than this at this position? I'll just go through ownership for you real quick. This is your top. I'll give you your top 5 ownership at third base. Ready? Urias, Miranda, Peraza, LeMahieu, Beatty. All 5 are going to be 10+% owned. And I'm not sure you feel great about any singular one of them.
Do you just play LeMahieu because he's gonna hit cleanup tonight?
I mean, he is, but it's full. It's like full circle to the point about the Yankees. Why are we just playing LeMahieu because name value and name on jersey? As much as I want the Yankees to be great, I'm a Yankees fan. They are not. They are bad against lefties, John. Bad. Like I don't.
You're probably right. It's probably Urias here. It's gross.
It's Urias, but I also think there is merit to getting to Beatty. Obviously, I mean the kid is, as much as we've profiled it, he's hit in his last 4 starts. He's hit in. Last 4 starts, he's
due for a home run at some point, right?
Due for a home run. The kid's a freaking monster. If you're stacking Mets, he's in play. If you're playing one-off with Mets, he's in play. He is just. I think he's probably the top play. I think Candelario is a very good pivot off of Urias and Beatty, who are obviously more popular.
Yeah, I mean Beatty and Chavis at second and third definitely get you Shane and
John. I think I'm getting to Nationals tonight. By the way. I think this live stream has only made me more interested in the Washington Nationals, and that I don't know how to feel about that. I don't feel good. By saying I don't know how to feel about it, I'm telling you I don't feel good about it. But here we are.
Shortstop Wandered at 59, Lindor's at 53, Bobby Witt is at $5,200. That's your top 3 price guys. They're over 5K.
Yeah, I mean, Wander has been amazing all year long. I guess he's slowed down a little bit, if you want to say that, but he's still, 5 extra base hits and 2 stolen bases over his last 10 games. Not too shabby. We know the upside. He is just better from the right side of the plate. And Cease is a good pitcher. So I probably find myself getting to Lindor more. I probably find myself getting to Bobby Witt more. Look, there is a case to be made, and Fantasy Alarms Justin Vreeland made it in on Twitter that he's using Royals tonight. And when I thought that, it was obviously before the Salvi news. I was like, oh, it's not terrible, because when you look at Tyler Mahle, like, righties really do hurt Mahle. 321 average, 368 on base, 547 slug, 395 WOBA against. Like, those are very good numbers, and Bobby Witt's a very good player. If he gets on, he can steal a base, he can hit home runs. So I think if I'm ranking the top tier, it's Lindor, Witt, Franco for me. Not getting to Franco much at 5,900.
I'm with you there. Jorge Mateo, man, just still ripping baseballs.
Jorge Mateo is ripping baseballs. Chase, please don't. Please don't do this to us.
What are we doing?
Ice through. Come on, bro.
Throwing in a Detroit lineup tonight. I mean, yeah, listen, he's doing 1 of 10.
I know. No, I know. No, he's covering. There's 10 teams. Like, just cover all your bases, right? Just 1 of 10. You can't go wrong.
Listen, Kerry Carpenter homered off Lauer the other day, and the 8-9 guys just did all the damage. So
true. And also, everything you've touched to lately has turned to gold. Ice through. You asked us about Goldschmidt. He double downed last night. So
yep.
Do that. Yeah, Jorge Mateo is what he's been. He's been, like, arguably the best fantasy asset of the year outside of Ronald Acuna.
I mean, 4 home runs, 8 stolen bases, 414 with a 1,200 OPS the last 10 games. Right. Might be the hottest hitter on the slate.
Yeah, and they were finally like, hey, maybe we should give this guy more at bats.
Hitting him 6.
Hitting him.
Right?
This is like I don't know. I've never been more excited for someone to hit 6th before, because Jorge Mateo is usually hitting 9th. So yeah, I mean, I think the ownership suggests it. He's going to be the most popular shortstop of the day, but it's warranted. I mentioned.
And
I think
he's hitting everybody. 333 average, 991 OPS versus lefties, a 407 on base percentage, a 586 slug. Yeah, and if they get Wentz out early enough, I mean, the stolen base potential for Mateo, if a righty's on the mound there, I mean, it might even be there with a lefty on the mound with the new pickoff rule. I mean, so yeah, I think Mateo at shortstop is my current leading candidate here, because I don't know. Volpe is fine, maybe. Andrews probably not. Abrams probably not. Nobody against Cole. Where are you? Is Joey Ortiz crack a lineup for you? I don't know.
So I do think Volpe is firmly in play here. If I were to use any set of Yankees, it's just Judge and Volpe hitting 1-2. Volpe's been very good of late. Back-to-back multi-hit games, 3 RBIs in it. Yeah, King Mana. Baltimore righties and Met stacks. I think those are, there's a trend in ownership tonight. Mets and Orioles are atop that trend in terms of rostership. Twins are there, and the Yankees are there. Those are the 4 teams getting all the love in terms of ownership. So, but I do think Volpe is a threat, even with Heaney on the mound. He has stolen a lot of bases. We've seen a 3 stolen base game from him this year. We're starting to see the gap-to-gap power. And obviously, him leading off, if he gets on, guess what? Aaron Judge hits behind him. So I think of the guys not named Jorge Mateo, it's Volpe for me. Like, I know Correa is better than this, John. And, but dude, is it, why is anybody shocked that he's been this bad? with all
Right.
of what happened this offseason, why is anybody surprised that Carlos Correa sucked? With dude, he literally there was clear medical issues coming into the year, and obviously Minnesota thought it was fine for him to play, but he's 16 for 80 to start the year, hitting 200.
Right.
I don't understand the ownership on him at all.
I think it's more so people just look at the name and look at the matchup, right? That's just what it is.
I guess.
It's kind of that's kind of the pieces I'm putting together with an ownership like that. So, but to your point, not really doing that well. Our guy Willie Moody in chat, man, what's going on? Mountcastle or Alonso here tonight?
What's up, Willie? I'm gonna go Mountcastle. Obviously, you have the salary to get to either. I like Mountcastle. I think we're going to see multiple balls leave the yard off Joey Wentz tonight.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the popular play here. You can certainly pivot off to Alonso if you want. Ton of power with Alonso.
Right.
We're not hating it for sure.
No,
but we do like the Mountcastle spot here for him.
I think you and I pretty much said at first base you're using 3 guys. It doesn't. Yes, there was a punt in Michael Chavis, but Joey Gallo, Brian Mountcastle, and Pete Alonso were our 3 options. Alonso has the most upside, but also Ryan Mountcastle has a 9 RBI game. So is that necessarily true? Maybe Mountcastle has as much upside as anyone else does, you know?
And you mentioned the stats, but I'll just reiterate them again. Versus left-handed pitching this year, Ryan Mountcastle, 333 average, 727 slugging, 1,050 OPS. So just an absurd number there against lefties this year for Ryan Mountcastle. And again, I know he's actually hit better at home this year. A little bit surprising given the struggles last year. But I'm willing to take the shot on him here today. You'll definitely have the money probably to play Alonso, though. Going on over to outfield. We've talked about some of these top guys already with Aaron Judge. You feel like he's part of your 1-2 stack. What are your thoughts on Cedric Mullins, though, leading off lefty versus lefty here against Wentz?
So I like Mullins leading off. I don't like 5,600 though, John, to be honest. I think that price tag kind of stinks.
I think it's a short slate price tag. I think that's kind of what it is. He's getting the boost. Otherwise, you could just play everybody. So they're kind of making you make decisions here.
He's been $5,100 or more every single slate this year.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think more so it's we've seen this a lot this year with base stealers and guys that can hit home runs. It's because they have the upside to do both, they're just getting priced through the roof. I like him, and I don't have a problem getting to him. He wasn't a part of my initial Baltimore stack that I built, but I obviously have no problem getting there. He didn't hit lefties great last year.
He's hitting them well this year. Only 28 bats.
He's hitting
again, sample size. 321, 977 OPS. He's got 4 extra base hits of those 9 as well. So
yeah, and Wentz has been pretty good at limiting damage to lefties this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm not totally against it. I'm not all for it. I think there's merit to both sides of the coin. Cedric Mullins has, a lot of upside, so you can definitely get to him if you want.
And if you get Wentz out of this game, Mullins ends up taking at bats.
Right, gets a righty exactly against just a terrible bullpen.
Yep, I agree with you there. Where else are we going in the top outfield spot here? Anybody jumping off the page to you?
Yeah, Byron Buxton against Greinke is going to be very popular. We know the home run upside with Buxton. He's not running anymore, but home runs in 2 of his last 4 games. Just keep the guy healthy, right? Hits in 5 of 6 games overall. I like Buxton quite a bit. He's been very good at home. All 4 of his home runs have come in Minnesota this year. Can't use Luis Robert. Brendan Nimmo, we love here. Surprised to even see offers on his ledger lately. 2 offers in his last 3 games. That's even shocking. But even with those offers, 390 average, over 1,000 OPS over his last 10 games. The guy's just been a freak all season. So of the 5K range, Starling Marte in that same category, but hasn't been doing it at quite the level of Buxton and Nimmo. So those two guys.
Buxton's hitting 400 in his career against Greinke. It is only 15 at bats. I know we're not the biggest BVP truthers on this show, but just something a little more to that point. He would have a lot more at bats against Greinke if he could ever stay on the field. They've only played in the same division like his whole career, but
I know.
One reason or another, he just cannot stay healthy there. So that's your top group. If we break it down into the mid-tier, a couple guys that we've talked about already with multi-position eligibility, Melendez, Gallo, McNeil. Then we get into like Santander hitting fourth against Wentz here. Kepler, lefty power against Greinke, as we've mentioned. He's hitting eighth today. Is Kepler? I know hasn't been very good. Riley Green's like the only Detroit guy I have any interest in. Stone Garrett, we talked about again, guys against Luke Casey today on Washington. Stone Garrett's hitting sixth, man. You got him. Lane Thomas is hitting fifth at $2,800. Washington, you're right, man. You're starting to see more of these Washington bats look a little appealing for sure.
Yeah. So Santander is probably my favorite player in this tier. He hit lefties extremely, extremely well last year. I think it surprises people to see that he hit 33 home runs last season, but 11 of them
every time I see it.
Hit 11 against lefties. And obviously, like, you just naturally don't get as many at bats against left-handers. 548 slug, 913 OPS, 255 ISO, 390 WOBA, against Southpaws last year. I love
385 on base percentage against lefties this year.
So. Yeah, I love Santander here. He's a core member of my Baltimore stacks. Honestly, a core member of my lineups in general. I love him in all formats, cash, tournaments, whatever. I would rather use Larnach instead of Max Kepler. He's just been better. He's just been more productive. There's 4 RBIs over his last 4 games. He has 8 RBIs over his last 8 games or so. Larnach hitting in a much better spot. Plus, it just attaches to your twin stacks much more. Kepler hitting 8th is just not.
Yeah.
There's just there's no flavor to that. I know we're both vanilla ice cream kind of guys, not a lot of. I mean, I think vanilla ice cream tastes great, but there's no flavor. We're not Max Kepler is what do I say about Harrison Barnes, John? I call him the white bread of the NBA, right? Max Kepler, white bread of the NBA. There's nothing appealing to this. Stone Garrett has hit lefties very well since last year. I really like that play. And
it's too bad Austin Hayes is hurt. Austin Hayes versus lefties was a key play for us last year as well.
Austin Hayes against lefties, and dude, honestly,
he's hurt unfortunately, but
it is really the Nationals for me. I'm not just saying it to fit my Nationals agenda that I've started.
Alex Call hitting leadoff,
dude, he's hitting 300 against lefties this year. Lane Thomas, John. If anybody has followed us, whoever out there has followed us throughout our podcasting history, knows how much John loves using Lane Thomas against left-handed pitching. This is it's been a running thing for years, a few years since Lane Thomas burst out onto the scene.
Yep.
He's hitting 400 against lefties again this year.
I know. People, they thought we were crazy. They don't strike out. They put the ball in play. Last year, it was really last year, lefties at home was the can't miss for Lane Thomas. He was hitting 340 or whatever it was against lefties at home. But to this year, he's just hitting them just in general, right? And now he's hitting in a spot where he can actually drive in runs too. He's hitting leadoff for a lot of that last year. Now he's hitting in the middle of the lineup. 417 average, 482 on base percentage, 458 slug, 940 OPS. Again, these are all small sample sizes, just 27 at bats, but he's 10 for 27. He's got 5 RBIs. Again, he's not a guy that's going to hit 30 home runs, but he could poke one out here, and hit a nice, solid, sharp line drive. That's kind of what the Nationals are all about. So I'm with you. You're not going to win a lot of money most days playing the Washington Nationals, but there are some days.
Hey, we said that about Oakland. We said that about Oakland the other night. What'd they do? They went out and scored 10 runs. So, You know what?
Listen,
It's all matchup
Washington blew up my parlay when I was in Vegas over the weekend. They put 10 runs on Minnesota with Lopez pitching. So, you know what? Maybe they can do it. To your point, they've won 4 in a row. They just, they can, so yeah, it's fine. Maybe now. Maybe this is a spot for them. So, all right, we got a couple of minutes left. Let's build our lineup here. Are we double stacking the top, Cole and McClanahan?
Yep, and 5 Nationals.
Five Nationals. All right. So Lane Thomas in.
In.
Stone Garrett. Are we just?
I was actually thinking Candelario for sure. Because third base was so bad.
You like him over Beatty? Yeah.
That's also a fair point. We could also use Beatty. Point taken. There.
We're going Gallo at first, or Mountcastle.
Or Mountcastle, because we can also use Gallo in the outfield if we wanted to get to Gallo. If we wanted to get to Gallo, we could use him.
Let's see here. Shortstop. Who's our shortstop? Mateo.
Yep.
We're gonna have to go with
Kybert or
Chavis
Alvarez.
at second.
Yep. Let's go. Oh, we're going with the national stack. Let's go.
Kybert, and we got a $4,900 outfielder here.
Santander's. We got 1,100. Do we have 1,100 to get if we use Santander? Do we add 1,100 to get someone else we like? Buxton over Gallo, maybe, or would you prefer Gallo? Buxton.
All right, I got it.
Okay, let's.
All right. Garrett Cole, Shane McClanahan, Adley Rutschman, Ryan Mountcastle, Michael Chavis, John Candelario, Jorge Mateo, Lane Thomas, Joey Gallo, Alex Call. That is our Washington Nationals 1, 2, 5, 7 stack. We got the 2, 3, 6 Baltimore stack. We got 1 off of Gallo for the power, and we're double stacking Cole and McClanahan for the lineup here this evening. Nick here, sad, but you guys are building the exact lineup. Yeah, that's the lineup.
Let's go.
Let's go out there
with some Washington, baby,
and get it done there here today. Yeah, listen, that's where we're at. We're at Washington. It's a short slate, everybody. And again, I got to remind you all here to stay tuned with what we got going on here at the Better Sports Network here today with everything that we got going on with the draft coverage and whatnot. So you got to check all of that out here this afternoon. And remember to play our NFL Draft Challenge for a chance to win a $100 Visa gift card. Go to bettersports.com right now. Predict what's going to happen in tonight's NFL Draft. Register for free and play our NFL Draft Challenge now at bettersports.com. James, got 10 seconds left. Any final words for the people at home?
Washington wins all the money.
Washington wins all the money. That's the sound off, everybody. Good luck. We'll talk to you all later.
NFL Draft is now officially open.
Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm presents the 2023 NFL Draft Bettercast, covering the fantasy football and sports betting angles of the NFL Draft.
Are you ready? Let's get it started.
Rookie scouting reports, NFL player comparisons, instant projections, draft props, and live betting. Live reports from Fantasy Alarm's Britt Flynn in Kansas City. Follow the NFL Draft and play our live Q&A contest for your chance to win fabulous prizes.
With the first pick,
this is the 2023 NFL Draft Bettercast on Fantasy Alarm and Better Sports Network.